This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
It's precisely 6:15. This is the news on Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. News is edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe, read by Sabrina Zawahir. The headlines. Notice calling nominations for the local government election will be published by the last week of this month. Air quality over the island expected to improve during next few days. Voting on the budget will take place this evening. The President says unpopular decisions have to be taken on the future. 13 chairmen and director generals accused of corruption removed. India's External Affairs Minister justifies the government's support to Sri Lanka. And in world news, Peru's ousted president detained by police in Lima. And in sports, Formula One extends contract until 2025. Now the local news in detail. Commissioner General of Elections Samant Sriratnayaka said the notice calling nominations for the local government election will be published by the last week of this month. He told SLBC local government election should be conducted before 19th March next year. Secretary to the Ministry of Environment, Anil Jasinga, says that the air quality over the island will improve during next few days. He said low-quality air could cause respiratory diseases. He requested people with respiratory, lung and heart diseases, allergies and elders and pregnant mothers to stay indoors as much as possible. Today is the final day of the committee stage debate in Parliament. Expenditure accounts of Ministries of Finance, Economic Stabilisation and National Policies and Investment Promotions are being debated. Taking part in the debate, President Ranil Wickremesinghe said unpopular decisions have to be taken on behalf of the country's future. He said the country is under present situation due to taking popular decisions and those who took such decisions should be held responsible. Steps will be taken to establish non-state universities. The President said discussions in this regard is taking place and final decisions can be disclosed in January. He said the electricity bill has to be increased and people would act understanding their responsibilities. MP Lakshman Kirialla requested the government to provide relief to the people. He pointed out that financial transactions that took place during the time of the previous government have not been reported to Parliament. He said the country is in a present situation due to incompetent management. Taking part in the debate, MP Vimal Weerawansa requested remove tax on school stationery. He said an in-depth study should be conducted to find the reasons which ruin the country. Minister Kanchana Wijayasekara said the government hopes to increase renewable energy capacity to 2,800 megawatts by 2026. He further said government would keep hydro and wind power plants under it. He disclosed that the Electricity Board has incurred a loss of 112 billion rupees by October this year and plans are underway to rectify the situation. Minister Vijayadasa Rajapaksa said there is a conspiracy to give ice free of charge to the country to destroy the future generation. Voting on the budget will take place this evening. This news is brought to you by Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
Continuing local news, TNA Member of Parliament Dharmalingam Siddharthan said that if the current economic crisis in the country is to be resolved, a national policy should be formulated. He said in Parliament today, after the assumption of office by President Ranil Wickremesinghe, the economic crisis faced by the people has been partially resolved. Even though the inflation in the country has now come down, plans for sustainable economic recovery have not been properly implemented. Prices of essential commodities have risen sharply. After the end of the war in the country, the fishing and manufacturing industries were not rebuilt. Proper restructuring of these sectors can lead to economic progress. MP Dharmalingam Siddharthan said that a national policy should be formulated to unite all the people of the country. 13 chairmen and director generals of institutions accused of corruption have been removed after President Ranil Wickremesinghe assumed office. Accordingly, the President's office said chairman and the Director General of Geological and Mines Bureau have been removed. India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar justified the government's support to Sri Lanka, saying India would be shirking its responsibility if it did not step forward to support a crisis-hit neighbour. He said yesterday the economic support that India offered to Sri Lanka during its worst post-independence economic crisis was for the entire country and not based on any communal approach. MDMK member Vaiko had sought explanation from the Minister for India, abstaining from voting on a draft resolution of the UN Human Rights Council on Sri Lanka in Geneva. In his response, the Minister said India absenting from a vote against Sri Lanka in the UN Human Rights Commission was in accordance with the long-standing position which was also followed by previous governments, which was the most constructive way of advancing the interest of Tamil community in Sri Lanka. PTI said in response to a question from AI-ADC member M. Thambidurai on the status of India-Sri Lanka Agreement of 1987, Jaishankar said the agreement has been the basis for changes in Sri Lanka, including provincial councils. That ends local news.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The National Dengue Control Unit says Sri Lanka is seeing a rapid rise in dengue fever once again. The highest figure is from Gampaha district, where 390 cases were reported within the locality. The number of patients reported within Colombo district is 27. Accordingly, 68,928 dengue cases have been reported in Sri Lanka so far this year. That was main news.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
Celebrate Christmas and New Year with lots of CIB discounts. Valuable gifts with bank discounts till 31st of December. Come to CIB today.
The National Building Research Organization has warned that the quality of air in parts of the island has dropped to an unhealthy level. NBRO said the foggy or misty conditions observed these days in several parts across the island are a result of air quality dropping to very unhealthy levels due to the increase in dust particles in the atmosphere. It further said an influx of dust particles contaminating Sri Lanka's airspace through strong winds from India is a major cause for this. That came to you in Watchlight.
Celebrate Christmas and New Year with lots of CIB discounts. Valuable gifts with bank discounts till 31st of December. Come to CIB today.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
We give you the strength to rise higher and higher.
Never step back, but always march forward.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
The headlines of the world news. Peru's ousted president detained by police in Lima. Iran carries out first execution over anti-government protests. TikTok sued by Indiana over security and safety concerns. Now the world news in detail. Peru's ousted President Pedro Castillo has been detained by police and accused of rebellion and conspiracy to break the constitutional order. He was reportedly detained on his way to the Mexican embassy in Lima hours after he tried to dissolve parliament. Images run by TV outlets showed the 53-year-old at police premises and cooperating with prosecutors. He has reportedly been moved to a police-run prison, but Mexico says it is willing to offer him asylum. Iran has announced the first execution of a protester convicted over the recent anti-government unrest. State media reported Mohsen Shakari was hanged this morning after being found guilty by a revolutionary court of enmity against God. He was accused of being a rioter who blocked a main road in Tehran on 25th September and wounded a member of parliamentary Basji force with a knife. An activist said he was convicted after a short trial without any due process. The popular social media app TikTok has been sued by the U.S. state of Indiana. Its Attorney General Todd Rokita has accused TikTok's parent company ByteDance of violating the state's consumer protections laws. 2 lawsuits were filed yesterday. The first one claims the app exposes young users to inappropriate content. In the other complaint, Mr. Rocket alleges TikTok does not disclose the Chinese government's potential to access sensitive consumer information. That ends World News. Prior to concluding, the headlines of the World News once again. Peru's ousted president detained by police in Lima. Iran carries out first execution over anti-government protests. TikTok sued by Indiana over security and safety concerns. That ends World News.
World News. Brought to you by courtesy of...
Amidst all challenges, we will rally around you and advance.
In the face of hardships, let's stand strong together.
Empowering you to reach greater heights. People's Leasing, the trusted leader.
Moving on to development news. Leaders from across the industry, civil society, finance and academia met in Colombo earlier today to explore short and long-term energy solutions amid Sri Lanka's worst ever energy crisis. More than 100 participants heard from experts and shared their insights into how this economically important sector can move towards more sustainable energy use. Organized by the European Union-funded Accelerating Industries Climate Response in Sri Lanka project, the event's centerpiece was on a panel discussion between leading energy experts and innovators. With expertise in leveraging finance, new technologies, and international trade in a changing world, the panelists shared some of the latest developments in the area of sustainable industrial energy. That was development news. Moving on to sports news. In sports news, first we take a look at cricket. The 5th match of the Lanka Premier League between Colombo Stars and Dambulla Ora is underway at Suryavava International Cricket Stadium, Hambantota. After deciding to bat first, Colombo Stars were 165 for 9 wickets in 20 overs. Niroshan Dikwala scored 62 with 2 sixers and 8 boundaries. Lahiru Kumara took 4 wickets for 36 runs in 4 overs for Dambulla Ora. Moving on to Formula 1. Will continue to race in the Netherlands until at least 2025 after the Dutch Grand Prix at Zandvoort signed an extended contract. The deal adds races in 2024 and 2025 to the initial 3 years agreed with F1. The event has proved a hit with fans supporting Red Bull's Max Verstappen since it returned to the calendar in 2021. The Dutch driver has won both races at the historic track at a beach resort on the North Sea close to Amsterdam. In 2023, a second Dutch driver will be added to the grid, with former Formula E champion Nick de Vries joining Williams. That ends sports news.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Indian Carrier Alliance Air is scheduled to operate flights to and from the Jaffna International Airport from Monday. Sri Lanka's Airport and Aviation Services said flights will start from the Chennai International Airport and will operate 4 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursday and Saturdays. With the commencing of these flights, the two states will be reconnected after nearly 3 years. That was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The fastest way to earn the highest interest, an interest rate of 22% in 4 months. NSB, the safest place for your money.
Economic news, courtesy of
LONC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LONC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
Earnings from
LONC Finance is taking the power of innovation to the next level, winning 5 golds at the Technovation Awards 2022, leading the digital revolution with cutting-edge interbanking digital payments. LONC Finance claims the overall gold award whilst also claiming an extraordinary victory in digital banking.
Moving on to economic news, earnings from merchandise exports declined in October 2022 on a year-on-year basis for the first time since March 2022, mainly due to lower earnings from garments exports. The decline in import expenditure continued in October 2022 for the 8th consecutive month, despite recording an increase compared to September 2022. The merchandise trade deficit recorded a notable contraction in October 2022 compared to the previous year. That was economic news. Moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says cyclonic storm Mandus over southwest Bay of Bengal is 300 kilometers northeast of Trincomalee today. It is very likely to move west-northwestwards and cross North Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and South Andhra Pradesh coast over southwest Bay of Bengal around midnight tomorrow. Cloudy skies will prevail over most parts of the island. Intermittent showers are expected in the northern province with heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters at some places. Showers will occur at times in the Sabaragamu province and in Gaul, Mathura and Trincomalee districts. Several spells of showers may occur in the western and northwestern provinces and Nuwara and Kandy districts. Strong winds about 70 km per hour can be expected at times over the northern, north central, eastern, Uva and central provinces. That was the weather report. Prior to concluding this bulletin of news, the headlines once again. Notice calling nominations for the local government election will be published by the last week of this month. Air quality over the island expected to improve during next few days. Voting on the budget will take place this evening. The President says unpopular decisions have to be taken on behalf of the country's future. 13 chairmen and director generals accused of corruption removed. India's External Affairs Minister justifies the government's support to Sri Lanka. With that, we conclude the news.